this stuff up. I'm going to be completely honest with you. It's a really good thing that I, for the most part, can control when I do my Broulis Beat Report podcasts. I got out of work today and I found out so many things about the Cleveland Browns. And I feel so bad for all of you Browns fans that were in your prime, so to speak, age-wise, when you were watching this team in the 80s. And some of you I heard on the radio on the way home, and even watching some shows on the TV when I got off of work, that go all the way back to watching Jim Brown and them guys play. And all the Browns did before the 4 p.m. trade deadline for the NFL was really do nothing except manage to forget to confirm on their end of the deal a trade with the Bengals that would have brought in A.J. McCarron from Cincinnati up to Cleveland. More on that here in a little bit. Hello everybody and welcome to the Broulis Beat Report. I am your host, Nick Broulis, and the Broulis Beat Report is brought to you always by Cafe 80s. If you are an 80s fan, you will definitely want to check out a Cafe 80s show. They will be in the Dover area at Martini 97 very soon. If you would like to follow Cafe 80s, you need to get on their actual website at thecafe80s.net. Get on Facebook, type in The Cafe 80s and like their fan page, or you can do what so many others are deciding to do finally, which is download that Bands in Town app and type in Cafe 80s and follow them that way. I would strongly recommend going to a Cafe 80s show. They are a lot of fun, unlike going to a Browns game or watching it when the team is being handicapped by their own front office. I'm a little ticked off, as you could probably tell, whether you're listening to this podcast on a internet on some sort of a phone device or whatever you want to call it, or if you are watching on the internet, on fandom.com, however it may be. The first thing that I want to cover is this. I wrote an article yesterday talking about what the Browns should be and could be doing during their bye week. Well, one of the things is they got to take care of Sashi Brown. Today even furthers my point that they have got to take care of business when it comes to Sashi Brown. He made the comment a couple of weeks ago that this team is indeed in search of some offensive playmakers. You know what that tells me? That you're going to be looking to make some trades with the plethora of draft picks you have for the next 2 to 3 years. Well, here's the thing. Last night, watching Monday Night Football, the Broncos and the Chefs. Yes, the Chiefs, but I call them the Chefs. Find out before halftime that New England sends Jimmy Garoppolo to the San Francisco 49ers for 1 second-round pick. 2 things on that real quick. First off, there are multiple reports from very credible sources saying that the Browns did not even make a phone call to try to inquire about what it would take to get Jimmy Garoppolo. Now me, I was the guy that if you've been watching the Broulis Beat Report a lot over the past 6 months, saying I'm not giving up a first and 2 second rounders to get Garoppolo. But to give up just one, you're darn right I'll do that. Why not? What's the harm in it? All right? Number 2. If the Browns, and there's no proof that this happened, the Browns are not even coming out and saying this, if the Browns actually called Belichick up and said, hey, we'll give you this and that, and then he just decided, no, I'm not going to trade Garoppolo within this conference, and then my luck, he really is the franchise quarterback, and he's going to be a really good quarterback, and the Browns get him, and then maybe 2 to 3 years down the road, all of a sudden we got to play the Browns in the AFC Championship game, and this trade comes back to haunt us. I'm not going to do that. I can understand that. Why would you trade within your conference with the possibility of that backfiring and that person that you traded comes back to haunt you later on in an actual game? I can understand that. But based off of everything that I've been hearing, I don't think the Browns made a phone call, period. I really don't. So San Francisco won the trade deadline sweepstakes, if you want to, call it that. I really think the Browns screwed up big time. Now, let's move on to my second point. They pretty much made no moves. They really didn't, because they failed to call in to New York, to the offices of the NFL, and say, yeah, we do want you to approve this trade. They were going to send a 1 second and, let's see here, a second and a third round pick to Cincinnati for A.J. McCarron. Now, it kind of confuses me that they were going to be willing to give up more to Cincinnati than what they were going to get, than they would have given up for Garoppolo. And don't get me wrong, I don't see A.J. McCarron as, Cleveland's version of great quarterbacks in terms of Bernie Kosar, Brian Sipe, or my favorite quarterback, Otto Graham. I don't see McCarron as that. But I do see him as a better option than what we currently have on this roster. He's been in the NFL for, I think, 3 or 4 years now. Remember, he was a very successful quarterback in college at Alabama. Not to say that if you're, successful in college as a quarterback, that's going to translate to the NFL. But, A, he knows Hugh Jackson's offense. And him just being a veteran quarterback in terms of how long he's been in the NFL, I think it's an upgrade from what we have on our roster. You can agree or disagree on that, whatever you want. But here's the thing that ticks me off probably the most out of all this. There are a lot of reports coming out, again, from credible media outlets saying that the coaching staff, Hugh Jackson, and a couple of his assistants are not exactly thrilled with the fact that the Browns let this trade slip right through their fingers. All they had to do was call the New York offices, because the Bengals did. If you go to, I think it's Cincinnati.com is their main news website down there in Cincinnati, they have it under their sports section. The Bengals called into New York and said, we are receiving 2 picks from the Cleveland Browns to send A.J. McCarron to the Cleveland Browns. Problem was, the Browns called in, I think it was a couple minutes after 4 o'clock, which was the deadline, to say, yeah, they're right, we are making this trade. Well, apparently they're trying to still appeal this process to get it to go through, but the NFL, as far as I've been told, is not having any of it. And you know what? I don't blame them. Hey, the rules are the rules. If you can't have your phone call or things approved by the 4 o'clock deadline, tough. That's your fault, not ours. That's on you. Just another example of this team's dysfunction and how pathetic that not just this regime, but all the other past regimes have ran this once enriched and glorified franchise into the ground in a team that has been the laughingstock and joke of the NFL pretty much since they came back into the NFL in '99. And here's the other thing. The fans. I know it and you know it. When the camera's panning and going across the stadium, when they first go live to First Energy Stadium for a home game, you see it and I see it. All those empty seats up on the 500 level. And based off of what I heard on the radio on the way home from work and what I watched on television and heard from fans, there's going to be quite a few more of those empty seats because they are absolutely fed up with the front office that is the Cleveland Browns right now. And I can't blame them. I mean, enough is enough. You want to show these fans and keep telling these fans in your interviews, well, we're seeing progress, or do it. Get out of Dodge. You're not. Who are you watching? I mean, are you watching some other team that colors are orange and brown? It's not the Cleveland Browns because guess what? They're 0-8 this year. They've won one game in their last 23 attempts. And guess who? I mean, Johnny Manziel won 2 games as a Brown, if my memory serves me correctly. And he's not even in the NFL anymore. I mean, seriously, enough is enough. For one, I know that Hugh Jackson has not done the greatest job with coaching. He's made some boneheaded decisions. I get that. But I don't think he is the main problem. I still say it's Sashi Brown is the main guy. You cannot leave it up to a guy that has never had any history of evaluating NFL talent and drafting players to a guy that's never done any of that in his career. You can't do it. When Jimmy Haslam fired Mike Pettin a couple years ago, and in the middle of the press conference, he announced that Sashi Brown and Paul DePodesta would be taking over, and they were going to run more of an analytics-type front office. I was open-minded to it, even though I didn't like it. I was standing in front of the television because I believe the game was in Pittsburgh, and I said, I don't like this, but you know what? We've tried, I think, every other way at this point. What's a different new route gonna do us any harm? Well, little did I know that the next 2 seasons, we are going to go closer and closer to going 0-16 and showing no progress whatsoever. At all. That's my problem. And these fans are fed up with it. And I don't blame them. And all the fans that I heard sounding off about this team, they were all age 40 or older. Because they said how old they were. They were talking about the glory days of the 80s. Some of them were even talking about the Jim Brown era that I brought up at the beginning of the show. The Browns have got to do something here during the bye week. And I wrote about the things that they need to do in my article on fandom.com. Check it out. But they made one attempt. And again, I'm not saying A.J. McCarron is the savior for the Browns. But he's better than what we have probably. And they didn't make any other attempts other than that to acquire any other players. You could have went after Garoppolo. You could have went after a couple of other wide receivers who on my Twitter timeline were available from other teams. You did nothing. You sat pat and you did absolutely nothing. And I'm going to tell you this right now. Once San Francisco breaks Jimmy Garoppolo into the system, I really think they're headed in the right direction, and they still have I think I read 3 or 4 draft picks in the first 3 rounds of this year's upcoming NFL draft. I keep telling people, you don't have to go, the team does not have to put the fans through the misery that they're putting them through to get to where they want to go. And you know, I get it. Some people are going to come out, maybe whether they're Browns fans or not, and say, well, you're the one making the choice to support this team. You're making the decision to go to these games. You're making the decision to continue watching this team. All fair points. But again, that's why I say that the Cleveland Browns fans are arguably the best fans in the NFL, because this is what they do. They continue to go to the games. They continue to watch the games. They continue to listen to the games on the radio. And they know. They know that this team is going to lose. It is an absolute shock when they win a game. And then another thing, some guy pointed out on Twitter, who's the worst ran sports organization in the last 20 to 30 years? He said, one guy said it's got to be the Browns. I threw out there the San Diego Padres, because I can't even remember the last time the Padres were relevant either. I can't. It's just a mess up in Cleveland right now. And you cannot blame any free agents next season if they decide that they'll take less money to go somewhere else. This team is such a dumpster fire, it is absolutely pathetic. This has got to be the lowest point of this Cleveland Browns team ever. It has to be. Because before the merger of the NFL and the AFL, this team was unbelievable. They were great. They weren't great, but they were good in the 70s. They had great teams in the 80s. They had some good teams in the 90s before you-know-who moved them to Baltimore. And then ever since then, what have they shown Browns fans since they've returned in 99? They have one playoff appearance, 2 winning seasons. Other than that, they just continue to lose and put sub-500 product on the field. They've had multiple seasons where they've lost double-digit games. They've had double-digit losses. 10 losses a season, 11, 12. This is ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous. All I can say is, let's just hope that Jimmy Haslam, the owner of the Browns, comes out here within the next day or so, and especially Sashi Brown. And you know what? For the record, the whole front office, and they need to come out and they need to clarify what in the heck is going on in Berea right now. Because guess what, guys? I'm pretty much giving the Detroit Lions a victory when the Browns come off their bye week and go to Detroit, which will give the Browns an 0-9 record when they host Jacksonville in their next home game, and they're gonna see a lot of empty seats in that stadium. Believe that. It's gonna happen. Not even winning in Detroit is going to change that. So, all I can say is, if you are still a Browns fan, I give you a lot of credit. I hope that there's Browns fans out there right now that are trying with everything that they have to be patient with this team in hopes that somewhere along the way they can figure out a way to get this right. Well, that does it for this edition of the Broulis Beat Report. Don't forget, continue to check out fandom.com for the latest articles. And follow me on Twitter @mbroulis. Get on my Facebook page and like it, The Broulis Beat Report. And really, that's it. I hope that at some point, Browns fans will have a product sometime before the next 5 years that they're proud of calling their team a real football team. Well, that does it for this edition of the Broulis Beat Report. I am your host, Nick Broulis, and until next time, have a good one, everybody.